Let's practice a polynomial problem. We have this binomial that is cubed. And the trick is to rewrite this as x minus 2 to the 1 times x minus 2 squared. You can see that 1 plus 2 is 3. Exponent law says when the bases are the same, you can add the exponents, so these are equivalent. Now I'm going to begin by foiling this exponent 2 part out. And I'll leave this alone, x minus 2. And when we FOIL it out, leaving the brackets nice and wide, we know that f is going to be x squared. Let me do the slow way first. So the slow way would be to just write it out as this. X minus 2, and this times this becomes x squared. That's first. Outside would be negative 2x. And the inside would be negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And the last would be negative 2 times negative 2 would be positive 4. And you can see that this becomes x squared minus 4x plus 4. Now hopefully you'll practice these type of problems to the point where you can do it the faster way. So the faster way would be to say, we can find this answer right away. This binomial squared happens to be the first part multiplied by itself. X times x is x squared. And then the middle part is going to be this first term times the second term here. X times negative 2 is negative 2x. And then double it. So negative 2x doubled becomes negative 4x. So as long as you can reliably do that, then of course you can use this trick. Otherwise, it's better to take your time and be careful. The last would be negative 2 times negative 2 becomes positive 4. And this here is the same answer as we just did the longer way. So we have this. Now we have to be careful. These type of questions are very easy to make a mistake in. People's eyeballs tend to play tricks on themselves. So I recommend drawing lines. So this is the farmer here is spreading lovely seeds and feeding each of his flowers here, whereas this farmer here, this other term, also loves every single plant and spreads the love there. So continuing with this idea of distribution, multiplication, what we have here is x times x squared is x cubed, x times negative 4x is negative 4x squared, x times positive 4 is positive 4x. And now on to the next farmer. This farmer also loves his crop. Negative 2 times x squared is negative 2x squared. Negative 2 times negative 4x, two negatives become a positive, and 2 times 4x becomes 8x. And negative 2 times positive 4x, the sign is negative, and 2 times 4 is 8. So be very careful when doing this type of distribution, and the key is to draw lines which will help guide your eyes to make less mistakes. So we only have one x cubed term, so it's x cubed. I'm going to gather all the x squares by doing a double underline here. When you underline these terms, make sure that you underline a little bit to the left of it, including the sign. Negative 4x squared, negative 2x squared becomes negative 6x squared. And I'll just do a little squiggly line for all the x's here. Positive 4x plus 8x becomes positive 12x. And finally, there's only one number left, negative 8. So when we expanded this binomial, which is cubed, we ended up with this final answer. We expanded it and simplified it by gathering terms. So when you get this type of question, some binomial cubed, the key is to break it down into a nice exponent 1 as well as exponent 2, and then just carefully expand out using FOIL, or if you want, you can just rewrite it as x minus 2 times x minus 2, just being very careful and just making sure that you respect these brackets. And then finally doing the distribution story, just being very careful about what you're multiplying and not making some silly sign error. And I recommend that you also have an underlying strategy so that you make less mistakes.